My name's John Laramie. I'm the singer for Epicurean. But all of us joined the band through auditions, so actually none of us knew each other prior to being in the band. So we were basically six strangers from relatively the same city, I guess, in a band. So it made for like a weird dynamic right off the bat.
Oh, I mean, there's so many horror stories of bands that, you know, grow up together and end up fucking just
hating each other down the road.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we've sped that process up, you know. I mean, it only took us, say, 3 years to start hating each other as opposed to a lifetime.
The Minneapolis, the metal scene.
Yeah.
Is there one?
Yeah, actually.
Who are some of the bands that are, I guess, you know, making the most noise right now?
It's hard to say who's really making the most noise just because we've been out of it for so long. Minneapolis has like a really strong scene, but because it's not, you know, considered more of like a major music market, you really need to leave if you're from there, you know, to kind of make things happen. So I mean, you know, like example, Motion City Soundtrack is like, you know, pop rock band from Minnesota. They're huge. I never heard of them until they were, you know, huge already because they just left, you know. But right now there's a couple bands in town that we always play with. There's with Deadheads Rising, who just got picked up by Media Scare. They got a record coming out. Those guys are really, really cool. And then a couple of our buddies are in a band called For Blood, and a couple of their buddies are in a band called Dying Euphoria that we always seem to share the stage with. Oh, and then if you look into the Minneapolis scene, there's a band called Impaler, who's been around since like the early 80s, and they're still doing it. The singer's my neighbor, his son's my age, and they're like punk shock rock.
How about the Minneapolis scene? I mean, you grew up there, right?
Yep.
How old are you?
24.
Not bad. Not bad.
Like,
in the 90s, I mean, bands like Harvest, Disembodied, I mean...
Yeah, Disembodied, I remember that.
Do you have any recollection of these bands?
Yeah, I remember going to see Disembodied as a really young kid. And then I remember Hatebreed always seemed to open up every metal show that I went to back in those days, and every time they came through, they would always mention Disembodied. And so that was really cool. And then when Disembodied split up, they actually became Martyr AD, who a lot of people in the cities were really into for a while. Minneapolis, I guess, is kind of in like a lull. You know, when I first started joining bands, maybe 15. So, you know, I'll say like 99, the scene was huge. And, you know, there were bands moving into Minneapolis, and then it kind of went away, but it's definitely on its way back now. And it's a cool place to be.
I mean, you have pretty lofty goals with the sound that you're pushing now.
Trying to, you know, like, we've just been doing the touring thing, and we're going to keep doing the touring thing. And, there have been some talks about going to Europe. Hopefully we're doing that. This has definitely been our first real Canadian tour. So it's good to actually get out and do some cities. And so we're just going to keep doing that. And then whenever we're not touring, I guess we're going to try to write as much as we can.
I mean, how crazy was the crowd tonight? I mean, you know, what kind of stuff did you see out there? I saw some pretty crazy stuff. I don't know. I mean, what did you see tonight out in the crowd?
Saw
headwalks. I think there were a couple of headwalks.
Some headwalks, yeah. Definitely some old school metal headbang. Saw a helicopter.
Oh man.
Not the genital kind.
This song is awesome. This thing is so huge.
I don't know. People seem to enjoy themselves tonight. That's good. That's what it's all about.
I think I caught a circle pit at a certain point.
Yeah.
I actually had a few points I caught in circle pits.
Yeah. Which is always good.
Yeah.
It's good to see that.
Yeah. And of course we have heavy moshing.
Yeah. And some heavy moshing. Yeah. We end up doing a lot of hardcore shows, and so we get the like hardcore dancing thing all the time. And it's nice to actually see a nice old school circle pit.
Who are your main influences in this band?
That's tough. That would be very, very different depending on who you ask.
From the singer's perspective, and then maybe from a couple other perspectives.
Well, I mean, you know, we got our standard metal stuff that we're really into. We all listen to a lot of Symphony X and, you know, cheesy power metal and all that stuff. But we also listen to a lot of classic rock, a lot of progressive stuff from the 70s and 80s, a lot of Brand X. And then, you know, when we're traveling around, especially is when it gets bad. Because we hear so much metal every night and play so much metal every night that we're just on this kind of 80s butt rock kick. We were just listening to like Phil Collins and, you know, just the what else? The Outfield and just the cheesiest 80s stuff has been kind of rocking it for us right now. influences are really vast. You know, like I said, metal-wise, like Symphony X is a huge influence, and definitely Dream Theater and bands like that. But then, you know, like I know Kansas always made a really big impression on us. Every once in a while we do a Kansas cover, throw that out just for giggles, I guess. But mostly stuff like that, I guess. Keyboard plays really Elton John. Stuff like that. You know, we try to keep it like diverse in just the sense that more like appreciating music as a whole and, you know, things like that, I guess. So it's tough to narrow it down.
Now the issue of female fans, groupies as they call them, has that been much of a challenge for you guys?
No. Definitely haven't quite reached that level, I don't think. I think our female fan base and our interaction with the females in the crowd has escalated to the level of excellent show. My boyfriend really likes your band. That's usually where it stops.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Is there any kind of, I don't know, well-known club in Minneapolis that you guys have been attending since you were younger?
Like venue, you mean?
Strip club.
Oh, strip club. Well, the one that everyone in Minneapolis goes to is Deja Vu, because it's one of the only ones you can get into when you're 18. So everybody's 18th birthday, they go there. And there's a new one called the Seville, which is really cool. More mellow, but there's like a dress code, you know, so for whatever reason they feel like making the least classy thing on earth classy. So you have to wear a suit to go look at naked tits, which makes a whole lot of sense. But that's a good one. If you go to Minneapolis and you're over 21, you gotta go to the Seville for sure. That one's really cool.
Okay, we got about a minute and a half left. Let's do the craziest thing you've ever seen in a strip club.
Craziest thing I've ever seen in a strip club? Man, I'm gonna be terrible at that question. I actually don't spend a whole ton of time in a strip club. Craziest thing I've ever seen in a strip club was, it wasn't even on tour. I actually took a vacation to Mexico way back, maybe 16 or 17, and met up a bunch of dudes that were a lot older, you know, and a couple of their friends. We're all hanging out and sort of went off the beaten path in Mexico. And we actually came into a strip joint that was offering you admittance of beer and a hand job for $4.50. Wasn't convinced to partake. Probably should have, but that was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
That's solid.
Right? You know? That's pretty cool. American money's not worth anything now, so it's probably like $20. But other than that, it's not too bad.
Hi, this is fucking Bike Rack, and you're on HARDTIMES.CA.
What is this whole bike rack thing?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
What does a bike rack mean? Well, it means that my pants, they hang a little low for a young man like myself. And somebody once said you could fit a bike in my crack, which is a fucking bike rack, you know?